Okay, guys, let's start talking about the Hot 100. We have our leading legends judges, Dan, Tara, and Terry, all present today.
Hey, guys.
Hello. Excited to be here.
This would be my turn to say hello.
This is your turn, Dan. Say hello. People are just getting on now, so while we're waiting on them to pop in with their questions, I want to hear from each of you what you're looking for this year.
Should we go in alphabetical order? Did you say me or Terry?
Terry or Tara, I don't care. Don't all jump in at once.
Go ahead, Terry. It's all you, girl.
Oh, gosh. Well, I think it's hard to define a specific what we're looking for. It's, art is, we could be real critical and say, we're looking for this or that, but I really think that I'm particularly looking for images that are standout, that have specific things per category. For instance, the backlit category is pretty self-explanatory. And there are a lot of people that are going to be lighting that with a light setup. There are going to be people that are lighting that with natural sunlight. And I think that per category, we were talking about editorial before we hopped on, all of us. And that can mean something different to everyone. It's not a specific thing that I might be looking for in editorial other than something that's not portrait, something that, Dan was saying, it tells a story. To me, it's a print ad or something that you're going to see outside of the realms of what we do on a typical senior portrait session. So I think that really stands
that.
Right?
Use that noise.
See? I don't know what that is either.
And who has an alarm going off? Because it's not me. Mine is silent. Oh, it stopped. Whoever it is. Okay. Go back, Terry, to what you were talking about. Oh my gosh.
Did you not hear any of what I said?
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
I didn't know if you were done. All we heard was the alarm or whatever that noise was.
Oh, wow. Okay. So basically standout images that per category really stand out in their field, and that is really just putting your best work out there. I think that it's a great time to specifically go out and have something in mind and step outside of your box and do something that's maybe more creative than you might do, although you might have some images in your portfolio this year already that perfectly fit those categories that you're really, really proud of. So I think that we'll know it when we see it, but things that really are intentionally done within each category and really your best work, the best of what you think you are capable of doing, and just going for it and just putting it out there.
I agree with Terry. Yeah, I'd say the same thing. Anything that's going to grab my attention right away. I think the first time I look at an image, it's just whatever really grabs my attention, gets me interested, makes me take a second to look at it.
I hate to interrupt, but we can't see you. For some reason, we just have your...
See me.
Okay. There we go. Now we can see you.
That's weird. So yeah, just stuff that really, especially that first time I look at an image, it's as if you're flipping through a magazine. It's that picture that just grabs your attention right away and makes you stop and look at it again. Because there's probably going to be so many entries. That's going to be the first thing, is something that stands out. In our industry, I feel like there's a handful of poses that are kind of like our safe poses and kind of safe images that are great for clients that kind of everybody does, and not to say they're not beautiful, but those are ones that we see over and over and over again. So I want something that's a little unique, different, whether that be, the colors, the styling, just something that's really going to make it pop and get me to look at it again.
Yeah, and I think for me, including all the things that Tara and Terry both said, if you think at it from a judge's perspective, if we're digging through 6,000 plus images, when you're looking at solid image after solid image, we're looking for something that's different. So don't be afraid to push yourself beyond what you normally do to create something that is outside the box, that looks different from everything you see on your Instagram feed or on all these photographers, you know, websites and Facebook pages and all that, because, you know, there's so many great images out there that you need to kind of up your game a little bit and do something that might not be so comfortable for you, and it'll make you stand out from the rest of the people while still being, you know, technically solid. And the last thing I'm always looking for is, as a human being, I'm looking for an image that makes me feel something. You know, it's not just a stiffly posed image or something that looks pretty, but something that makes me feel something too, where it's like, I want to hear more about this person or about this story, or I wonder what's going on. So it's kind of a mix of outside the box along with some sort of evoking some sort of emotion. That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that this contest is an awesome way to really push yourself, like we've all said, to step outside of the box. Because if you think about it, not winning a contest like this doesn't mean you're not a great photographer.
Right.
It means that you necessarily haven't put something out, like Dan and Tara said, that stand out. So when you go through your Instagram feed, and I know we all do, we all have photographers that we follow. Hopefully we have other things that we follow as well to get an outside influence. But when you go through your Instagram feed, what images all look the same, and you just keep scrolling through, but what grabs your attention? Because if that grabs your attention, what that means is that speaks to you, and maybe that's something that you can step out of the box, and this is an opportunity to try that. See if that works into your work and something that fits your style, where you want to go with it.
Yeah. And I've noticed, too, another thing is I think, you know, it is a big competition and there are lots of entries, but I strongly encourage everybody that's kind of teetering whether or not they should enter, just enter. You know what I mean? You never know what might happen. I mean, you might have, you know, amazing images, even if you're not, you know, well known, or you don't think your style is known throughout the industry. That could be a really great thing. You know, we can see some new upcoming talent, you know, see some different stuff out there. Just do it. It's scary, but it's great to kind of see, you know, if you didn't make the cut, that's okay. Maybe that's going to give you room to, you know, things to work on or improve. You know, other than, you know, when we're talking about what we're looking at, you know, we do want some, you know, typical, you know, photography standards. You know, we're going to look at composition and lighting and posing and focus and all that kind of stuff too. But, you know, it's anybody's game. Anybody's got a shot.
Okay, guys, we have some questions coming in.
Okay.
Nicole would like to know, do the images have to be from an actual senior session, or can it be from an image captured while doing a session with a senior? So more of a creative session instead of an actual paid senior session.
I think it can be from anything. I mean, it can't be from a workshop. I mean, it depends on the workshops and things like that, because usually you sign a contract saying you can't use this.
We don't allow it to be from any workshop or shootouts.
Yeah, exactly. But you can, you know, if it's from a creative shoot, hey, that's a creative shoot. Go right ahead. I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my take.
I'm full on with that. If you're putting yourself out there to do a creative shoot, then a reward would be that you get to enter that because you're putting yourself out there and doing something different.
Right.
Okay, Lee wants to know, can you guys go over the categories and give some examples? I know that they've changed a bit this year. They change a little bit every year. Every year we refine the categories for our participants. Who wants to start? Pick a couple of categories each.
All right.
And we've let the women run. We're going to let you run with this one. You get to pick the first two.
Me?
Yes, you.
All right. Well, I'm not going to do them in order. I'll go with off-camera flash. So something there. Obviously, I picked that one. Something with off-camera flash is definitely there's a technical aspect to it which needs to be sound, and then I think at the same point it is again making something different that doesn't look like every other off-camera flash you've seen. You know, figuring out a different way to use your light, figuring out how to use it to tell that story or do something different. And again, I always come back with the flash to the technical aspects of it, where you're still creating a solid image with a solid foundation and then kind of building upon that. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's kind of my take on off-camera flash. And a lot of times, I see that happening outdoors is the obvious answer there. I think another category would be the straight out of camera. And I know that one's always tough for a lot of people because even when I'm shooting, sometimes I'm trying to shoot a nice clean image that isn't going to cause a lot of back end work, but a lot of times I'm thinking, oh, what can I do with this later? And having that straight out of camera makes you really focus on the front end when you're shooting. Again, I always go back to the technical aspects of creating that clean image that stands on its own without needing any post work. So I think, looking through your work, trying to figure out how to get all those details solid before you snap the shutter, just to create something like that. And then I'll pick one more. I'll say.
Y'all have to pick at least 3, and then somebody gets a wild card, they get an extra one. So we'll see.
All right. I'll say black and white, just to do something different. I think with any strong black and white image, it's always looking at the image. Sometimes when I'm looking at a black and white image, looking for the strength, I kind of squint and look at it and see. I always want to make sure there's that true black and that true white within the image, not those muddy gray tones in the middle. And when I squint and look at an image, I always want my eye to go right to where I want the center of interest to be, which is usually on the person's face. So a lot of times when I'm editing the black and white, I'll sit back and squint and make sure my eye is going to the brightest spot. And when I open my eyes and really look at it, I want that to be where I intended the person's eye to go, which is usually to the subject's face. So, and again, it's just having that contrast. When I'm shooting black and white, it's controlling the clothing because, if you have a person in certain situations and they're wearing a white shirt, well, black and white's probably not your answer because it's gonna mess with your eyes. So it's kind of planning that all out and picking something that really truly embraces black and white photography. All right, that's all. Let somebody else go.
I would love to make a point, and that is a lot of people shy away from studio because they don't do studio. And I won in the studio category one year, and the most amazing thing is it had no lights. It was completely molding the light using a north-facing front window. I knew what I was doing with the light, molding reflective light, and also I knew I had to have some sort of hair light. And so I just want to encourage you, don't shy away from studio if you know how to mold that light. And the same is true. I'll also, obviously studio right now is hot, and go for it with your studio light setup. That really is what I think studio is about. But don't shy away from the fact that I won a studio image. I won, I think it was last year, with an image that was completely using natural, controlled, and planned light for the patterns that I was looking for with a studio image. But also backlit, that again I mentioned earlier, I don't know if the alarm was going off when I was saying this, but backlit can be one of two things. It can be using light, a light setup, something that you're using outdoors, or it can also be creatively using the sun. And I think a lot of images that really catch my attention with backlit images are images that you still see the face. I think there's a lot of backlit images where you can't see features. That's not necessarily a bad image, but things that really capture my attention is figuring out where did this photographer put the main light. Like, was the main light the sun, or was the main light the backlight? And did they use a reflector for fill? Did they use flash for fill? Those are things, I think, images that are backlit can really stand out. But also, if you're looking to really capture the attention of a judge, it's one that's really lit well and you can still see features. That's something that really stands out to me. And I'll wait to choose a third one, Tara. I don't want to choose like my 3 and leave you the last 3, so I'll wait and let you choose one.
Okay, so for the organic, that is, we see that so often in our industry. It's obviously super popular. I think that's how a lot of us tend to shoot. Nature, trees, probably some backlit mixed in there, so you could probably go with multiple categories on that. Just like pretty and earthy. I think a lot of earthy tones, obviously the big hats, fields. That's kind of what I think of when I think of organic. And then when I think of editorial, so I brought some little samples with me. It doesn't have to be like this, because this is obviously from like Teen Vogue and stuff. I'm kind of in the same boat as Terry. I don't necessarily think of it as a story, especially with something like this that's a one image kind of thing, even though a lot of editorials have multiple pictures and tell a story in a magazine. But just something that's not super portraity. It's a little more fashion inspired, cutting edge, more dynamic posing, Styling, to me, comes a lot into play with that, like what the wardrobe itself is, which kind of leads into that next category of styled. I think styled could go multiple ways. It could be something like literally just the styling of the clothing, or it could be something where, you know, it's beautiful headpieces, flower crowns, something super elaborate. It could even be a theme, you know, Alice in Wonderland, or, you know, any kind of thing like that. Disneyland, different fun shoots like that. So yeah, that's what I think of when I think of those categories. Some of the categories to me are a little more self-explanatory than others, but that's kind of my perception and my take on those three.
Like urban, I'll take urban since that one is left, and I love urban. I shoot urban a lot. Something that was really interesting to me as I entered this contest every year is that you find yourself guessing, like, I don't know what category to enter this image into, because it could fit a lot of different ones, and my answer to that is, what does it speak to you? What do you think it would fit into? Don't try to guess what we think it fits into. Yeah. And my case in point is I saw a lot of urban images that weren't exactly what I would call urban images that won because of a juxtapose. Maybe it was, you know, the model, the senior, wasn't necessarily dressed urban, but she was in an urban setting. Or maybe she was dressed urban, but not necessarily in an urban setting, more just by a really cool car, and it made me think outside of the box. So I encourage you to think outside of the box. Don't fit your art into a box. Take that category and ask yourself, or I should say take your image and ask yourself, where do you think it fits into? Because it might just make us as judges go, wow,
yeah,
thought out, or he really thought outside of the box. I never would have thought of that as urban, but it totally speaks to me as urban.
That leaves photographer's choice. Who's going to take photography? I think all of you should.
That's the one image that grabs my attention right away, that instantly I fall in love with it. There's something about it that just I love. And I think it's going to be instantaneous.
Photographer's choice to us is kind of like for the category to enter it. Maybe you have an image that doesn't quite fit any of the categories, so this is like your choice image. Do you guys want to give an example of what that could be? Like for me, it could be sports. Maybe there's a sports image that is not lit with off-camera flash, or doesn't, you know, just doesn't fit into any of the other categories, or it's a.
Yeah, just to add on to the sports idea, I had some really cool girls involved in dance, and it's the same idea with sports, as obviously it's a sport as well, but the stuff that we did, I was thinking along the categories when you were saying that, and it's like that's where that would have to go, you know, because some of it wasn't necessarily studio, it wasn't urban, it was kind of this whole mix of things, and that photographer's choice would be a good place to put something like that. It kind of takes on its own life.
Yeah. Or if it's something that fits into multiple categories, you know, maybe take that. If it's one of your favorite images that could go on several different areas, put it in the judge's choice or the photographer's choice.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say something that just really blows me away, something that is completely creatively out of the box, something that, again, might not fit those categories. It just is this wow image. I also want to mention, too, that there are some images that could be flat lit that are pretty creative, too. I mean, lighting always speaks to all of us, and that is what makes an image, but there can be a situation where the image tells a story and it is using flat light. I mean, flat light, you know, shouldn't be discounted because it can be, it can fit in very creatively to an image. So.
Okay, Adrian has a really good question. Would you rather see a single subject in any category? I'm guessing it's broad. Would you rather see a single subject, or are group images possible, especially for styled, etc.? Which would you prefer to see as a judge? All three of you.
I haven't even thought about that.
Well, I'll say that styled images, to me, I've noticed every year they are group images, but I have had some pretty awesome, you know, opportunities to shoot just an individual. I think an individual could totally fit in, my personal opinion, into the styled category. I don't think it necessarily has to, a styled shoot doesn't necessarily have to be a group of images, or I mean a group of models, just my opinion. If it's just an amazing styled shoot.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't think that it has to be one subject or multiple. I think just depending on the styling itself, it could be all across the board. It could be any.
Yeah,
Okay.
the strongest image, whatever happens to be in it.
Liz wants to know, in the off-camera flash and studio category, are you checking for lighting patterns and catch lights?
Dan.
In the off-camera flash?
And studio.
Yeah, I mean, that's building on that technical foundation. So, you know, a lot of times within another category being editorial, you'll lose some of those catch lights and some of that technical perfection just because the way you're shooting it. But I think as far as, you know, off-camera flash and things like that, we'll definitely be looking for that, because I know as a judge, when I'm first looking at an image, I'm kind of going, all right, composition, that's the first thing I'm looking at, and then the light, I'm kind of taking all that in, just to kind of figure out where the foundation of this image starts, and if the photographer really had the knowledge and understood the craft before they kind of moved into the next level. So I'll definitely personally be looking for that.
Okay.
I would say the same thing. I'm going to look at some of the technical aspects. You know, make sure it has good, pretty, even light. If there's, you know, lighting patterns in there that I can specifically look at, that's even better, but it's not necessarily a deal breaker.
And hand position matters. I mean, I think that, you know, again, it's not a deal breaker, but if we got right down to the nitty gritty and there were two amazing images and, you know, you're now looking at specifics, I think that's when that type of thing comes into play. Like, are you showing me the back of the hand, or are you showing me the pretty curve? And I mean, again, it's not, I don't think initially that's a deal breaker. I think it's those images that pop, and then it comes down to comparing images at the end where we're looking for technicalities, at least for me, that will really differentiate an image that was very well thought out and planned, and technical training comes into play or not. So.
Okay, this next question from Lori Brady, I'm going to answer for you guys. Are you all judging all categories, or do you only judge certain categories? Our Leading Legends judges judge all categories, and they typically battle it out in 2 to 3 elimination rounds, Lori. Nicole wants to know, can you submit one image for more than one category?
Yeah. I did it last year. There was one that I thought could go on multiple platforms, and so I entered it twice. And it's interesting because the one that I thought it would have, you know, possibly had a chance at, the one that I was leaning towards, was not the one that it won for. So yes.
Okay, I'm starring all the ones that basically ask the same thing about that. Devin wants to know, I assume natural light studio images are okay, correct?
Yep.
For sure.
Yep.
Heather wants to know, what's Terry's selfie light setup?
What? My selfie, like as in right now?
Yes.
Ring light. But I also have, let me show you. This is pretty cool. For my cell phone.
Oh, wow.
On the go, on the go. My
Fancy
dad
like
actually
that.
has a cell phone. I mean, a cell phone, a selfie, a ring light. Just only because it's so dark. I mean, in California, you have to keep in mind, Tara and I, like, it's morning time here. So my studio is naturally dark in the morning, so I had to do something, or you can see me real, let's just face it, it looks better.
Okay. Jennifer has a really good question. Would you say one category is harder to win in than another? One that you judge a bit harder, maybe?
Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I think one of the things that makes it harder to win in is when you think of categories that generally have more entries, so the competition is just that much more fierce. You know, think of something that you see every day on your Instagram feed, and again, I hate to go back there, but like backlit images, or the one Tara was talking about, I can't even remember what the category is.
I didn't say it specifically, but
organic, you know, things like that that you generally see a lot of photographers shooting in that. That means there are going to be more entries in that, where you push yourself and enter more, you know, some of the categories you don't normally see. Your odds are just up based on the number of entries.
Okay.
I would also say photographer's choice. I don't know. I think that might be a little trickier because, we're gonna have certain ones, and like to me that's gonna be like kind of like the nitty gritty. I mean, it could be ones that don't fit those other categories, or it could just be ones that's an absolute favorite for whatever reason. So those are ones that have to be really dynamic, super impactful. So I would say that might be a little bit more challenging, but that shouldn't stop you from entering it.
I think Sean's questions have been covered here. He says, what do you do if you feel an image is in between two categories?
Enter it twice.
Put it in both.
Yep. Amanda, but it has to be in the category itself, right? You all are saying that it has to be a wow image, but if it's not in the photographer's choice category, it can't win that category, right? It can't win Photog's choice just because it's pretty.
I'd say yes, it can. I mean, if there's an image that's absolutely stunningly beautiful that I fall in love with, that to me could be my photographer's choice. It doesn't mean that it has to be one that doesn't fit other categories. At least, for my opinion, that's my take on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it definitely has to be something that stands out. And, for each of us, that's why this category will be tough, because for each of us, we have different things that are photographer's choice. And we all like different things, where when you're looking at a studio image, we can all agree that there's certain parameters the image needs to fit within to start, but with photographer's choice, it's such a wide array of images that it will be tough.
Mm-hmm.
Heather asks, what is the average number of images that a photographer submits? I'll answer that one because you guys haven't judged yet. The average number is between 10 and 15. Let's see here. Carrie wants to know, can you give some more detail on the editorial category? That seems to be the hot question right now. Anybody want to elaborate on that? We know Tara's shown some examples. Dan's looking for it to tell a story.
Yeah, I'll elaborate on that even further. And what I mean by telling a story doesn't necessarily mean that it's clear-cut, that it's a story. I mean, the definition of editorial photography is that it fits some sort of narrative. So, Terry was saying it's not necessarily a posed portrait. That is absolutely correct. So, whether the story is something you make up, whether it's something very subtle, look at magazines. Go look at Vogue, W, Interview, any of these magazines. Kind of look outside the normal senior photography box, and go with that. I mean, I know when I'm shooting editorial in that style, I incorporate more movement and things. That might be the story. Like I was saying earlier with this dancer, we went to some locations that you wouldn't normally think of for dance photos, and they were kind of more that editorial vibe where it was fitting that whole thing. So I think you need to go look and figure out what inspires you, because editorial photography by definition fits some sort of narrative. It's just not that pretty posed portrait that you'll see with, generally in senior photography.
Yeah.
Tara.
Yes.
You took it by storm last year with the icon status. Do you want to talk about icon status for our listeners?
Well, I'll be honest. I was super nervous last year. Last year was my first year, and so I submitted a lot, and I tried to just pick pictures that really, spoke to me and that were some of my absolute favorites, which, funny enough, one of them that I entered, my client absolutely hated, but it's one of my all-time favorites, so I entered it. But yeah, I bit the bullet and I entered it, and I mean, I was shocked as everybody. I was like, please just let me win one. Just let me have one. I just want to have that cute little badge. I want to have it in there. I want to put it on my website. So yeah, I had no idea that I would win that many. So it's really just putting yourself out there and going for it. And I did, like I mentioned, I did enter multiple pictures, in different categories, just because I wasn't sure where it fit, because some of it is just kind of an opinion and a judge's, opinion of which category that fits into, whether it's more backlight, whether it's more of the organic, if it's studio or off-camera flash kind of thing. So yeah, so I just entered a ton, and yeah, that's how that happened. I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't entered a lot and just gone for it.
Okay. Christina wants to know, do you guys tend to lead towards an image with more negative space, pull back, full body, or less negative space, close up?
Ooh.
I think it depends. I think it depends on the category, again, I think it's one of those things that's it's going to either jump out to us or not, and I tend to lean towards all of those depending on the image, depending on what you're trying to portray and what category you're entering that into.
Yeah, I don't really think there's a black and white answer to that question.
Yeah, I think if there was, let's say there was a category that said beauty, then to me in my mind, I automatically think, tight, close-up, pretty, stuff like that. But I think all of these categories, it could be any of those. There's no way to say like, oh, if I'm looking at an editorial image, it has to be full length, so I see the whole outfit. Not necessarily at all. So.
Okay, Jennifer asks, do you as a judge ever look at an image and wish the photographer had entered it into another category where it could actually win? Do you think if you come across an image in that situation?
I could see that happening for sure. Yeah.
Well, if it's one that, that I particularly love, then that could potentially roll over to, it's photographer's choice. That actually is a category they're entering.
It's a category they have to enter. They have to enter their image that they feel doesn't fit any of the other categories, so that's why we create, it's like a free-for-all category.
Yeah. So yeah, that could happen.
Well, yeah, it could happen. Dan, any thoughts? Do you think that you're going to see some image that's going to be killer and should have been entered into another category? It's going to.
Yeah, that'll always happen. Now, even talking today, I can think of things I entered last year, or going back where it's like, oh, maybe I should have entered that in this category. And again, that's another reason to enter, because you only get better from experience. So that was, one of the many things I learned by looking at all the winners.
Yeah, it's important to go back and look at the winners from previous years, and I will be highlighting a few on the blogs in the coming weeks. The contest will close on September 12th. Do not wait till the last moment. Start creating your folder, start thinking about it, start asking questions. Let's see, oh, we've got some more questions here. From Jeff, my own question, Photoshop, do you find you prefer images with basic retouching better than those that have matte finish or some extra Photoshop effects besides composites?
Again, I think that's going to depend on the image. I think overall I prefer a lot less Photoshop, but that's such a hard, I don't think that's black and white. I think it really depends on the image and what the image you feel the image requires. And does a certain Photoshop technique lend itself to really, a better story for the image or a better presentation of the image?
Yeah, I think that speaks more to you as the photographer who's creating it. Is that your style? Is that what you want to put out there? Than really for us to say, if you're really good at that sort of thing, then that should be your thing, because that could make you stand out. So I think that's more on the photographer's end than on our end.
And if we're talking about retouching in terms of like super soft, creamy porcelain skin, no pores whatsoever, I think that's a personal preference. Me personally, I like to see skin. I like to see texture. Now, mind you, I want them to have good skin and I want it to be pretty, but I don't like it where it's just a flat matte, no details, no nothing. Even if it's just a little under eye bag. I mean, not under eye bags where it looks bad, obviously, but just where it's clean and pretty, but I still want some kind of texture in the skin. I don't want it, overly photoshopped or overly, random portraiture that you can't see any details. And that's just my own personal preference.
Okay, the next two I will answer. Jennifer wants to know, do we as photographers get any feedback from the judges on the images we enter? No, unfortunately, you do not get feedback on the images due to the sheer volume of images submitted. Nicole, if the judges think it should have been entered into another category, can the judges, just left, pull it out and put it into the photographer's choice category, or do we have to submit it to the photographer's choice category? Judges cannot pull an image from one category to another. It has to stay in the category it's in. Photographer's choice is the free-for-all category that you feel things may not enter urban, may not enter studio, but you want to submit this image. So this is your free-for-all category. You have to enter the image. Amanda, I didn't think it would take long to catch that one. She says, can you talk about the end of the contest versus the deadline to turn in images? Some things say September 1st, others say September 12th. Yes, today I decided to extend the deadline to September 12th because we're doing the hangout later in the month of August. It gives people just an extra couple of days to go through and figure out exactly what they want now that they're armed with the new tools as to what the judges are looking for. Let's see here. Let's see what else we have, guys. Anybody else have any questions for our judges? Now is the time to be asking them.
While those are coming in, I just can't miss the marketing opportunity that I want to put out there for people. Just entering it, and it gives you the opportunity to win. You can't win unless you enter. And there are so many marketing opportunities when you have a winning image. And it just, I just want you to enter. Even if you're nervous, even if you've never done it before, even if you think that it's, you don't know how to fit the categories, but just enter, because once you do have a winning image, then there are just so many different things you can do within your own community, within your own studio, of course on Instagram and social media, but it really lends itself to being able to market your studio, and you can talk about it in your model meetings. You can, you know, the actual senior that wins, it's exciting for her, and you can do a really special presentation of the magazine for her and her family. And there's just a lot of different things that you can do marketing-wise by entering and winning. And again, you can't win if you don't enter.
And I want to elaborate on that to the majority of the people, the ones who won't win, because that's just the truth of the matter. I think by entering, it forces you to take a deeper look at your work, not only categorically and picking, you know, where should this go, but more from the aspect of, you know, you're going up against the best of the best in senior photography, so it really makes you step back and take a look at your work and figure out where you need to improve when you don't win and you're looking through what were selected as the winners, and figure out, you know, okay, let's take an honest look at all the things that make up my image. Where could I improve? And I think from, you know, building your own work for the next time, it can be, you know, don't be discouraged when you don't win, because you're in the majority. Figure out how you can take your work to the next level the next year so you can be a winner.
Good point.
Great point. Katie, yes, 11:59 Eastern on September 12th. You guys are so quick. Ashley, you caught that too, that there was a date change. We did do an extension. It was decided today, September 12th, 11:59 p.m. Eastern is the deadline to enter your images. Cindy, your question kills me. It's awesome. What's the most number of images one photographer has ever submitted? Laughs out loud, just curious. 100. That is the record. Okay. Any closing statements, guys? Because it looks like we've ran through all of the questions. Anything you want everyone to know before they enter their images for this year?
I guess break out and do something different that isn't in your comfort zone, and that'll stand out in the long run.
Yep. Go out there, have fun, enter. Don't be scared. Just do it. You never know what might happen. And good luck, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Step outside of your box. This is the time. Have fun. Sure.
Let's see here. I think we've got them all. Oh, wait. We have one from Jennifer. If an image has already been seen, maybe featured on the SSG, does that make it less likely to win? Would you rather see images you haven't seen before?
I think it depends. If it's a kick butt image, I don't think seeing it before is going to stop me. If it's amazing before, it's going to be amazing now.
Yeah, if you're scrolling through Instagram and you've come across this image from the photographer, it's not going to affect your decision.
No.
Yeah, I can think last year when I entered, it was lots of stuff. It was images I was proud of, so of course I'd already posted them somewhere else for my own marketing and things. So I would say don't let that stop you.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, thank you everyone for your time. The link is available at seniorstyleguide.com. It is in the center box. It's sticky to the top of the blog. All the details on how to enter. The one big thing, please follow the instructions and enter according to the rules and guidelines. And these three will be very excited to judge your images come September 12th. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.